Hi Geometry, this is page 2 of our new packet, and we're going to talk about what we were doing in the last unit. In Unit 8 we were factoring, and in Unit 9 we are going to be solving. So in this first problem it was x squared minus x minus 20, and we're going to talk about factoring this. It's a trinomial. We do our diamond with our negative 20 at the top and our negative 1 at the bottom. And I think of my side numbers, and hopefully you're thinking of negative 5 and positive 4. Because my a is 1, I can write my side numbers in my parentheses, and I get x minus 5, x plus 4. I would be done. These are my factors for x squared minus x minus 20. So when I solve, I do all the same work. I do the same diamond with the same numbers. I get the same side numbers. I'm going to put them into the same parentheses. But the difference now is that it's equal to 0. And if their product, x minus 5 and x plus 4's product is 0, in order to get that answer when you multiply, one of the two has to be 0. So either x minus 5 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. So our next step is to write each of the factors equal to 0. And now we do the math. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides to solve for x, and I get x equals 5. And I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 4. And this would be my solutions, my roots, my x-intercepts for this parabola. So our steps for success here is to look for a GCF look for a GCF, because we always do that. So step one is we're going to factor based on our Unit 8 factoring skills. We learned how to do GCF. We learned how to do trinomials with the diamond. We learned how to do factor by grouping, and we learned how to do dots. And then once we do all of that, just like we did in Unit 8, now we're going to set each factor equal to 0. I can do that because of the 0 product property. That's saying that if their product is 0, then one of the factors has to be 0. We're going to do our algebra skills to solve for x, and then we call these answers. These are our solutions. We sometimes call them that. We call them our zeros. We call them our roots. And when we graph them, they are our x-intercepts. So let's take a look at these 3 examples that we have here. Example 1 is a trinomial where my a is 1. So I'm going to start off with my diamond to see if I can factor it. 6 at the top, 5 at the bottom. And I think of my side numbers, and I think of 3 and 2. So I get x plus 3 times x plus 2 equals 0. And now I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. So either x plus 3 equals 0, or my x plus 2 equals 0. On the left, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides to solve for x, and I get x equals negative 3. On the right, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 2. And these would be my answers. They're my solutions, my zeros, my roots, and when I look at the graph, they would be my x-intercepts. It would be negative 3, 0, and negative 2, 0 on the x-axis. So let's look at number 2. Number 2 is a trinomial, but this is where my a does not equal 1. So I'm going to do my diamond into grouping. So at the top of my diamond is a times c. That's my 2 times 6, or my 12. The bottom of my diamond is my 13. So I'm trying to think of something that multiplies to 12 and adds to 13. So I get 1 and 12. But these are not my side numbers. These are the numbers that I'm going to use to rewrite my trinomial as a 4-term polynomial. I keep the 2x squared and I keep the plus 6 equal to 0. But I don't write the 13x. Instead, I use my side numbers, and I write the 13x as plus 1x, which is just plus x, and plus 12x. You could write them in any order. Order does not matter. And so now I underline my first two and last two. And in the first two, my GCF is x, and I get a 2x plus 1 in my parenthesis. My second one, my GCF is 2, and I get my GCF is 6. I was trying to hurry. Let me go back and change that. So I've got a 12x and a plus 6. So my GCF is 6. And 12x divided by 6 is 2x. And 6 divided by 6 is 1. And I notice my parentheses match. And so that would be my parentheses that are the same times my leftovers, which is x plus 6. Now this is equal to 0. So in Unit 8, I would have stopped here. But now I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. I'm going to run out of a little space here with the 2x plus 1, so I'm going to try to fit it in. 2x plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and I get 2x equals negative 1. I'm now going to divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals negative 1/2. You, of course, can write that as x equals negative 0.5 if you'd rather. And now I set the x plus 6 equal to 0, and I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and this is where I get x equals negative 6. So my two answers are negative 1/2 and negative 6 for my x. So let's take a look at example 3. Example 3 only has two terms, so it's not the diamond method. This happens to be my dots, my difference of two squares. And to do dots, we would take the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term, and I would add and subtract them. And I can do that in either order. So I get 5x plus 4 and 5x minus 4 equal to 0. So in the last unit, we would have been done factoring it, but now we're going to set each factor equal to 0. And to solve for x, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides in this equation. I get 5x equals negative 4. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 5 and get x equals negative 4/5. That is equal to negative 0.8, and you can write your answer that way. On this one, I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and I get 5x equals 4. I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I get x equals positive 4/5, or positive 0.8.